Hello guys, I'm Obliviousquill. In the previous video, I showed you how to set up a Webtoon file and make a rough and cleaned up draft. Now I'll show you the layers and tools that will be useful when creating your line art, coloring, and rendering. You've done your rough draft and added your dialogues. Now let's start doing the line art. When doing line art, I highly recommend using a vector layer rather than a raster layer. To create one, go to the layer palette, tap the new vector layer icon, or select Layer, New Layer, Vector Layer from the menu. A vector layer stores your lines as mathematical paths rather than individual pixels. This means the lines remain sharp even when resized. Let me show you the difference. Here I have the same line drawn on both a raster and vector layer. When I enlarge the vector line, it remains smooth and crisp, but when I enlarge the raster line, you can start to see pixelation and blurry edges. I'll zoom in further so the difference is easier to see. This becomes important when exporting your Webtoon to different sizes, or if you need to make adjustments later. Using vector layers give you much more flexibility throughout the production process. Another advantage of vector layers is how easy they are to edit. For example, let's clean up these overlapping lines. Select the eraser tool, then in the tool settings, set the vector eraser setting to erase up to intersection. Now when I tap an overlapping line, Clip Studio Paint automatically removes only the excess portion. You can also adjust the thickness of existing lines without redrawing them. Go to the correct line tool group and select Adjust Line Width. You'll see several options available: thicken and narrow. For character line art, I usually increase the thickness of the outer silhouette slightly. This is just an artistic preference, but it also helps the character stand out from the background. For this line art, I'm increasing the line width by approximately 0.05 pixels. The exact value depends on your art style and the brush size you used originally. Notice how the character immediately stands out more after thickening the outer lines? Next up is coloring. The first thing I do is create my flat colors. Before coloring, I need to tell Clip Studio Paint which layer contains my line art. Select the line art layer and tap the lighthouse icon. This sets the layer as a reference layer. A reference layer allows coloring tools to recognize the line art boundaries even when you're coloring on another layer. Now create a new raster layer underneath the line art. I keep my colors organized using the color set palette. If you don't see the color set palette, open it by going to Window, Color Set. To create a new palette, tap the wrench icon and create New Set. Once you've chosen a color, tap an empty color slot and replace color. I recommend creating color sets for every major character in your Webtoon. This keeps your character colors consistent throughout every episode and saves a lot of time. Another option is using the Subview palette. If your Subview palette is invisible, go to Window, Subview. The Subview palette allows you to import reference images directly into Clip Studio Paint. For example, I often import my character sheet here or any screenshots. Then I can use the eyedropper tool directly inside the Subview palette to color pick from the reference image. This is especially useful when working with multiple outfits or characters. Now let's start filling the colors. I use the Enclose and Fill tool. These are the settings I use. The reference setting is set to reference layers so the tool recognizes my line art. Close Gap is enabled because it fills small openings in the line art. Area scaling is turned on slightly to prevent white gaps from appearing between the color and line art. These settings make coloring much faster and reduce cleanup work later. To use the tool, draw a loop around the area you want to fill. Clip Studio Paint automatically fills everything inside the enclosed area. This works particularly well for large sections such as clothing, hair, or skin. Once the main color is blocked in, I use the Fill tool to color smaller sections individually. Now let's move on to the shading. For shadows, I create a new layer above the flat colors. Then I change the layer blending mode to multiply and tap the clip to layer below icon. Clipping ensures that any paint I add stays inside the character's flat colors. Before I start shading, I always think about the lighting situation. In this scene, the light source is coming from the left side of the character. That means the right side will naturally receive less light and become the shadow side. Understanding the light source first makes shading much easier and keeps the character looking believable. To block in the shadows, I use a combination of lasso fill tool and a hard pen brush. The lasso fill tool is one of my favorite tools because it allows me to quickly create clean shadow shapes. After placing the shadows, I lock the transparent pixels of the multiply layer. Now I can airbrush different colors into the shadows without painting outside the existing shadow shapes. For skin, I usually add warmer tones into the shadows because it helps the skin feel more natural and alive. Next comes lighting. For this step, I commonly use Add Glow, Screen, and occasionally Hard Light. Each blending mode behaves slightly differently. Screen creates soft lighting and is great for general highlights. Add Glow produces stronger and brighter light effects. Hard Light increases contrast and can create more dramatic lighting. Just like the shadow layers, I clip these layers to the flats. In this scene, I'm adding brighter highlights to the eyes and hair. Small details like eye shines often make a surprisingly large difference to how alive a character feels. You can add as many blending layers like shading and lighting, depending on the scene and what emotion you want to invoke. For simple backgrounds, I often use materials from the Clip Studio asset store. After downloading the material, drag it directly onto the canvas or press on this icon to paste it to the canvas. Clip Studio Paint places it as an image layer. To edit it more freely, I first rasterize the layer. Press and hold onto the layer and then press Rasterize. Once rasterized, I can freely adjust the colors. For example, if the colors don't match the mood of my scene, I go to Edit, Tonal Correction, use Saturation Luminosity. Then I adjust the sliders until the colors fit the atmosphere I want. For this particular scene, the character is showing sadness and gloominess. I visualize her with a purple color scheme, so I adjust the background to a shade of purple instead of blue. Sometimes the colors still feel slightly off after coloring. This is where gradient maps become useful. There are default gradients in Clip Studio program and ones in the Clip Studio asset store. Go to Layer, New Correction Layer, Gradient Map. A gradient map remaps the colors of the artwork using a selected gradient. It's an excellent way to unify colors and establish a specific mood. For example, warm gradients can create a sunset atmosphere, while cooler gradients can make a scene feel mysterious or melancholic. I often test several gradients and blending modes before deciding which one looks best. For important panels, I like adding extra visual effects. One of my favorites is this glow effect auto action. After downloading the auto action, open the auto action palette by going to Window, Auto Action. Then press this icon, then Add Palette. Add the gradient set you downloaded as well into the gradient map window, so you can use it when you play the auto action. In the gradient map window, press on the wrench icon, Add Gradient Set. Select the action and tap Play button. The action automatically creates multiple effects layers and applies them in seconds. A more detailed explanation on auto actions can be found in the next video. This is a huge time saver compared to building the effect manually. The glow effect works especially well during emotional scenes, magical scenes, or important character moments because it helps draw the reader's attention exactly where you want it. This scene is the wedding scene of my characters, so I want readers to visualize the importance of this scene. And that's the completed colored panel. We've gone from a rough sketch to a fully rendered Webtoon panel ready for final polish. In the next video, I'll explain how I add the finishing touches to my Webtoon, prepare it for upload, and export it using Clip Studio Paint.